and welcome everybody to Crystal Masters for August. How are you? I've been looking forward to our class. You know, this is one of my favorite topics of the whole year. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited. We get to learn about not one stone tonight, not two stones tonight, not three stones tonight. We get to learn about 9 stones tonight. And in that mix of stones, some of my favorites on this planet, and we get to talk about astrology tonight. I mean, come on now, it's like everything that we love in one place. So how are you? Are you ready? Are you excited? It's great to see you. Cheers and cheers, and buckle up. If you're new, anybody new to Crystal Masters, I know we've had a few people join us, so if this is your first class, Team SG takes notes for you. And so you get to kind of, I mean, you can still take your own notes. I still take notes. Even if somebody's taking notes for me, I'm very particular about my notes because I write little notes to myself and stuff. So if you're like me, you can take your own notes too. But we are taking notes for you. So your invitation is just to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride of what we're going to learn tonight. I'm thrilled you're here. So cheers. If you're new or it's your first live class, Elizabeth is new. Christina's new. Welcome to you, right? Natalie says, I'm back, not my first, right? And my classes are like that. I mean, you're welcome to come and go. You only have to finish the 12 months of Crystal Masters if you're trying to get the certificate at the end of the year. If you're going for the certification, you do have to complete the 12 months of classes. But if you're just here to learn and, you know, soak up and enjoy, and I'm down for that too. Some classes I take with teachers, they don't offer certification. So, in fact, most of the classes, I've only ever taken one class that offered certification. Everybody else is just like, you know, trust that you're there just for whatever you get, right? So, everybody's tools have shipped. So if you have not received your tools yet, unfortunately, it's nothing Sage Goddess can help with. It's a delivery issue. So you'll want to check on your tracking and all of that. Be patient because the delivery folks, I don't think I've ever had such a rough time. So anyway, if you don't have your tool yet, you will have it soon. The tool for tonight's class, and I'm not wearing it because I need to show it to you. I'm going to turn on my other camera too, just so I have an option. Let me make sure that's working. Hold on just a second. I should have checked this before, but I want to make sure, just so I have another camera. You don't need to see my altar. That's my altar. You don't need to see that, but there will be times when maybe I want to show you that a little bit more close up, and it'll be much easier for me to get a good angle on that camera versus this one. So we'll use that for backup. I'm going to teach you everything I know that I think is important for tonight, and then I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we have some time at the end for Q&A. Whatever's on your mind, and it doesn't have to be focused on the Navaratna or the Navagraha, which we're going to talk about. If we have time for Q&A, I'm just going to open it wide up. I love entertaining your questions. We lost a big matriarch in the Java mineral world last week. Judy Hall passed away. She's one of the, I'm one of those people in the crystal world. I really do like to give credit to the people who started this work because I think we stand on their shoulders, you know, so I have massive respect for Judy. So I just want to give a little shout out to Judy Hall and say, you know, we'll take it from here, and thank you to her for all of her wisdom. So there is an activation associated with the Navaratna. I'm mixing Navagraha and Navaratna. I'll explain the difference in a minute. I have my computer here because, so I spent about an hour trying to find the most concise Navagraha mantra, Casey, which is the activation for the Navaratna. I found one that is concise. And so I'm going to play it for you, and I'm not going to try to recite it because I don't speak Sanskrit, and when I try to speak it, it's not always as articulate as I want it to be, especially when it's a mantra that I'm not really familiar with. So I'm going to let someone more skilled than me recite the mantra for you, and I will put a link in there for you too. You can also look up the Navagraha mantra, and so anyway. It's okay if you're late, Carmen, come on in, we're just getting started. And honestly, in my classes, you can't really be late. Wherever you come in is where you come in. I was a college professor for 15 years before I started Sage Goddess, and I used to take attendance and give grades and all of that stuff. And so if you ever wonder why I don't do those things, and I always taught adults. I taught college, university, and I taught graduate school, master's and PhD students for 15 years. And adults don't learn well by having to be somewhere right on time and take tests and get grades. That's not actually the best way to measure adult learning. So now that I teach adults in this capacity, I figure you get here when you get here, you receive what you need to receive, and that's kind of how I flow with teaching. Just after all those years of giving grades, really isn't the best way to assess adult learning. So I trust that you're here right when you need to be, and you'll get everything that you need in the process. But I'm delighted that you're here, truly, truly. Okay, so let me, I always like to ring my bell at the beginning of class, which is right here. And I also like to, even though this is not this is not Soul Shift. Soul Shift is my class where we do ritual and ceremony and all the things, but I do like to just burn a little bit of Palo Santo to set the space, because we're still learning, you know what I mean? We're still activating a tool tonight. So I do like to clear the space and clear the energy a little bit and send some of that your way. You're welcome to do the same thing, or just let me do it for you. I also like to do these things because if I'm training you as a crystal healer, my philosophy is that, people will come to you for healing, and it isn't just a transaction, right? Healing is not just a transaction, healing is an experience. I always tell you this. I've had a lot of crystal healing sessions in my life, dozens of them, and with different people. And most of them were a massive disappointment, and that's why I went into the business of teaching crystal healing, because I thought I need to train people who don't just have the pen and paper and ask the right questions and put the right stones on my chakras, and you know what I mean? I need to be training people who are going to provide the deeper experience. And so part of what I try to share with you is not just, okay, here's the crystals, here's what they do. That's transactional. What I try to share with you is, how do we set the space? How do we energetically prepare ourselves and prepare our clients for the work that's going to happen? So that's what I want to share just a little bit with you here. Like, I would never do a crystal healing session or any healing session without burning some Palo Santo or some white sage or copal resin or molybdenum or benzoin or something like that. One of the energetic purifiers, myrrh or frankincense, are good too. And if I don't burn something, then I'll anoint with it or I'll diffuse it into the air. But it's very important. Terence McKenna, who is an incredibly powerful person who really researched the world of psychedelic medicines in Central and South America and spent a lot of time working with indigenous people in those regions, talked about this concept in shamanism of set and setting. And what that means is that your mindset, which is what he was referring to by set, your mindset matters and the setting matters. Where you are, where the healing is going to take place, how it smells, what the temperature is like, the sound of your voice, your own energy coming into the space. And so preparing all of this is not just you don't just go through the motions, right? You're doing this so that you can have the strongest possible energy going into a healing session. And even if you're just healing yourself, which is the most important healing you do, your mindset and the setting are incredibly important, right? Yeah, very much so. So I am grateful for that concept of set and setting, because it helps me teach people that crystal healing is not just a transaction and a clipboard and what brings you to my office today, right? We get to indulge all of the senses. So one of you asked what we're working with today. So yeah, so if you're new to Crystal Masters, or you didn't get your tool maybe, or you're not sure what the content for this week is, or this month in August for our learning, let me show you. We are working together today. I'm going to teach you about, and this was the tool for the month, called the Nava Ratna. I have a few of these left at sagegoddess.com. If you would like to purchase one, if you didn't get your tools. And so those are there if you would like one, or you can, you know, you might want to try to collect the Navaratna on their own and not even have it. I made it into a necklace for you. These were custom made as our class tool for this month. There we go. Almost clear. There we are. So this is the class tool for August, and those 9 stones are called the Navaratna. Nava means 9 in Sanskrit, and Ratna means stones. And so these are the 9 stones. This pendant, by the way, is done in sterling silver with 14 karat gold over, and that was very intentional. The Navaratna should always be set in solid sterling or solid gold. That's not working as well as I wanted to. It's pretty though, look at that. That's the energetics of that piece. Can you see it? Look at all the little bubbles and the little, like I really love it out of focus. Isn't that cool? Shows you the sacred geometry behind it. Very cool, isn't it? So yeah, so if you're new or you don't have the tool, what I would say is some of the stones I'm going to talk about tonight, because I'm going to teach you about the 9 stones. Some of them you already have in your collection. You probably have ruby. You probably have emerald of some form. What else might you already have? You might have a yellow sapphire, you might have coral, you might have chrysoberyl. I mean, all of these stones I've had at Sage Goddess over the years. You might have hessonite. So what a lot of people do is they learn about the Navaratna, and then what they do is they go on a mission to collect the 9 separately and do something with it, just like the Synergy 12, right? Like people learn about the Synergy 12 and the power of it, because I'm going to tell you something, this is the OG Synergy 12. This really is. The Navaratna, the 9 stones in Sanskrit, is the OG Synergy 12. It's the set of stones that our ancestors said were the most important for bringing balance, prosperity, peace, joy, power, all of these things, according to our ancestors. Now, Michelle Williamson, and I totally get it, she said, you know, I prefer silver, I'm not a gold person. Gold is incredibly important as a metal, and so this is silver underneath, but there are purists, Michelle, who will tell you the Navaratna should be set in nothing but gold. I'm not a purist. I say make up your own rules, but if you ever want to know why I do something, there's always a method to the madness. But you will notice when I'm teaching alchemy and when I'm teaching ancient history, I'm 9 times out of 10 going to be bringing you jewelry and amulets in gold and not in silver, because our ancestors would have been working with gold and not silver. And that's what the Hindus were working with. They were working with the Navaratna in gold. They were not working with it in silver. So my job as a teacher is kind of to bring you, Christine's asking what's OG, like original, you know? So my job as a teacher is to bring you things in their original form, as our ancestors would have done it. But you may choose after this to go to a jeweler and say, I would like you to make me a cuff, because people will make cuffs, or a necklace in silver. And if you're a silver person, what I would say is just make sure they're set into solid 925 or solid white gold. And the carat doesn't matter, but it's really about just making sure that you're following the original, what they recommend from the original text, which is that these stones are to be set in solid gold. But you can do white gold, which is still good, or sterling silver. Silver's okay to hold the stones. It does not have to be anything else, but you don't want mystery metal. that's the point I'm making. You just don't want mystery metal. But yeah, the Indian people in general don't work a lot with sterling silver. They do now because it's what's in fashion, it's what's in style, and a lot of people prefer silver to gold. A lot of people, I mean, my daughter prefers silver to gold, my best friend prefers silver to gold, so I totally get it. But like I said, my job is to try to bring you the history, and then, but here's what I'm going to tell you. A couple of caveats for tonight. You ready? I break rules left, right, and center. So I teach you how it was originally, and then I'm always going to tell you, go your own way, follow your intuition, because your intuition's always right. So that's the number one thing you need to know, especially if you're new to me. I don't like rules. I'm not good at following them. I break them, sometimes intentionally, sometimes accidentally, because I blame it on my Sagittarius moon, but I just I go my own way. Okay. The second thing I'm going to tell you tonight, as a caveat for tonight's class, is I am not a Vedic astrologer. So if you have very specific questions about Vedic astrology, that is not going to be covered tonight. And that's important for you to know, because you may have some very technical questions about sidereal astrology. I can speak in general to the differences between sidereal, which is Vedic astrology, and Western, which is tropical astrology. But I am not a Vedic astrologer. I'm more of a traditional Western astrologer by my training. However, I have a really wide and interesting network of people, as you know, and I have had hours of endless conversations about Vedic astrology and the Navaratna. So I can answer your high-level questions. But if you want a full interpretation of your chart in sidereal astrology, you will need to go to a Vedic astrologer and have a full Vedic reading done. I don't have anybody to refer you to in particular, but I have people in my community who I could ask if you're looking for Vedic astrological references. And then what I would say too is there might be people in this group who are very gifted Vedic astrologers. That I'm not aware of, but there might be. And so if there's somebody here tonight who's like, I'm a very experienced Vedic astrologer, would love to see you choose to work with someone in our community versus outside of our community. So I don't follow rules. I mostly break them, sometimes by accident. But I do try to stick true to history, because I am trying to give you the best information I can. And then if you want a full Vedic astrological reading, like what does it mean if my Ketu or Rahu is in this placement, and how does that relate to how I would work with the stone, I'm going to direct you to a Vedic astrologer who can answer all those specific questions. I also hate pants and shoes. I do, and I don't spend money on them. We had this conversation yesterday in the gem sale. I really don't like shoes. I have shoes in my closet, but honestly, I wear flip-flops and that's it. And one of my pairs of flip-flops is broken. I really am down to one pair of flip-flops. But that's okay, because that means I can buy crystals, which is my favorite thing to spend money on. Yeah. So anyway, do you have any questions before we get started? I hope that's helpful for you. Let me go up in the feed and see if there's anything I can respond to. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to show you the ring on my finger because you're asking about it. So you see this one? I'm not trying to give you the finger, but you see it. That is Hessonite garnet, which is one of the stones we're going to talk about tonight, and that's carved into Lakshmi, who's the Hindu goddess of abundance and prosperity. So that ring was supposed to be here for our live gem sales 3 months ago or something like that. These were made just for me. But then the people who were making them came down with COVID, and still because of COVID, I don't have them. They're now ramping up their production of them again, but it's going to take probably 1 to 2 months for those rings to get here. So I'm hoping the Lakshmi garnet, I think I have 50 of them coming. I'm hoping to have them by the holidays. Thanks to COVID, everything is like 3 to 6 months late. Yeah, I know. I want to bring them to you too. And so when they come, we'll all be really excited. I will let Crystal Masters know first. I might save that for you guys exclusively, because I think we're only getting 50. So I don't even know if I'll bring that to the gem sale. I might just have that, or I might do it at a gem sale, but only you guys know, and do it at the end or something. So anyway, I'll keep you posted. All of my jewelry and singing bowls is off production because of COVID. So when you ask me, where's the alchemy ring, where's this, right? What you're going to hear from me until this pandemic is over is COVID, because 2 of my carvers passed away. Most of the production has been shut down, as you know, in most countries, and is only beginning now. And now there's another wave happening, and they're talking about shutdowns in India and all those places again. So we just really have to ask for your patience, because my number one priority is making sure everybody's safe, whether they're working and doing stuff for me in the US or outside the US. My first priority right now is safety, just because I've now lost 3 people to COVID who were young and vital and not unhealthy, who were really critical to the work that I do. And so this thing is not messing around, and neither am I. So we appreciate your patience. And if there was anything I could do to change it, I would, but we just have to stay steady and, just hope for the best and raise the vibration. Yeah. But thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I don't even know what safety first looks like anymore, but we're figuring it out as we go, right? Okay, so let's come back. I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to be talking a lot for this first part of class, but then I'm going to play the mantra for you, and I'm going to lead you through a brief meditation with your piece. And if you don't have your piece, I'm just going to ask you to meditate without the piece. So the first half of the class is going to feel kind of lecture-y, but tonight is kind of, there's a lot of information I want to share with you, and so yeah, thank you for your sweet thoughts. I really appreciate it. It has been hard, but you know what? The people who need those prayers the most are their families and people who are, you know, right in their, you know, in their lives and learning how to move forward, you know? Yeah, thank you. Every time we've lost someone, it's just been such a punch to the gut, like, really? Wow, him? Really? Yeah, so anyway, may it all be over soon, you know? Okay, so I'm gonna dive in, I'm gonna focus here. If you have specific questions or technical issues, Alexis is here with me. Hi, Alexis. So she'll be able to answer your questions in the feed if I miss it. Okay, so the Navaratna, if you have my crystal history book, this is Crystal Lore Legends and Myths that I wrote a couple of years ago, which you can find on Amazon if you want it. I wrote a little section on the Navaratna under the Gems of India. So if you have that book, if you go to page 56, you don't need to look at it now. I'm not going to read from it for you. But there is a whole section that, you know, to some extent I'll be talking about the same information here, but your chapter on the Crystals of India in this book talks a lot about a lot of different things in India, like the Himalayan ridge and other, you know, things that are important to the Indian geography and landscape. But it does also talk about the Navaratna briefly. But you know, this class is special because I don't stay at the surface level, I go way down deep. So we're gonna go much deeper tonight than my book did. Yeah, if you have a signed copy, that's a lucky thing. I don't think we have any more at Sage Goddess, so I'm glad that you, yeah, 56 is the Gems of India in Crystal Lore Legends and Myths, yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so the Navaratna, so where did this all come from? So now there's a debate about this, okay, as with everything in history, and I'm going to try not to geek out and digress too much, but you know how I get when I talk about history. I used to teach the history of Western civilization to college students, and I'm still obsessed with how our world formed. And I think for me, I always knew I had past lives in India and Egypt and Greece and Rome, and so those ancient civilizations have called to me since I was born. You know, when I was young, I didn't want to do anything except read mythology books. So my heart really is in all of that. So a lot of people ask all the time, you know, what's the oldest spiritual wisdom on the planet? How far back does it go, and where is it really anchored, right? And the answer is it's anchored in something called the Vedas. Now, I was raised Christian. I never heard of the Rig Veda growing up. I was raised by a grandmother who was a minister, my mom, very, very strong in her faith, going to church every Sunday, right? So as far as I knew, the oldest spiritual text on the planet was the Bible. That was my touchstone for ancient history, right? But as I came to learn, going through school and then finding teachers and just being fascinated and thinking to myself, that can't be the beginning, right? Like there has to be something older than that, because we've got fossils that are older than that. You know what I mean? And so the true answer, insofar as we know it, and I say this because this is as far back as we can trace human wisdom, okay? I believe that most of us came to this planet originally as part of what we call the Lemurian civilization or the Atlantean civilization. And I'm starting to even question, based on some medicine experiences I've had, if that's the original. I think it may have gone earlier than that. But there's a chapter in my book on Lemuria and Atlantis, so if you're ever interested in like, what's Athena's view on like Lemuria and Atlantis and how this all started, why did they pick Earth and all of these things, that's one of the first chapters in the Crystal Lore book that I I won't belabor that point today because it's not exactly relevant, but I do share more of my thoughts about why Earth, when Earth, how Earth, you know what I mean? Like, how did this all start? Because when you start to study geology, you know, you realize that our planet is made up of these layers, right? And in each of these layers, you have these different minerals and these different metals. And gold, you know, of course, is the most readily available metal on the planet. And even to this day, like we prize gold, and I think gold is the reason why our planet was chosen for colonization. I believe that there was a race of beings, I wouldn't call them human, called the Anukim, what we call today the Anunnaki, and I believe they chose Earth because of the proportion of gold here, because gold was important to the work that they were doing. Okay. But I believe that we started to, you know, energetically colonize Earth in a way through the Lemurian and the Atlantean civilizations. The first real recorded human spiritual wisdom that we can trace back to, but even in the Vedas, there's this idea that the authorship of the Vedas may have been hybrid human spirit in some form, okay? Certainly there's a common belief that the Vedas, which again, Vedas, the original spiritual text, there's sort of a common belief that the Vedas are inspired by the gods. Vedas means knowledge in Sanskrit. And the oldest of the Vedas, because there are multiple Vedas, the oldest of the Vedas is called the Rig Veda. And the Rig Veda brings us this wisdom about the Navaratna. You have to know that the yoga tradition is based in the Vedas, the chakra, everything that we know about the chakras and energy and sources of light in the body and how energy flows, the masculine and the feminine, it all comes from the Vedas. So that is really, was I an alien in one of my past lives? You know, here's the thing, I don't know what an alien is. You know, I don't know what an alien is. My family's been visited by aliens for 25 years, 30 years. My mom would say it goes back to when she was a little girl, so maybe 75 years. They don't look like us, right? I mean, she always sees the same consistent form that's pretty consistent with what everybody else says an alien looks like. But you have to know the ancient Egyptians, right, the Atlanteans, were hybrid beings. They were half human, half animal, right? Like Thoth is a hybrid of the ibis, the bird, and the human, right? So, and you look at the Sphinx, right, which is also a hybrid creature, and we weren't always like this. So I think of when you cross the veil, we don't all look like this. We don't all have hair and eyes and two eyes. Some of us have more. We don't all have two arms and two legs. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very specific costume to be on Earth. So I don't know what an alien is. Where are the Vedas located? I actually don't know if there's an actual text in existence. That's a great question. You have to know, here's what I can tell you, Melissa. The Vedas originated as an oral tradition. The Vedas were stories that were passed down. And the timeline, by the way, so what everybody agrees to without fighting is that the Vedas were written, transcribed between 1500 and 500 BC. That's like the sort of universally agreed upon wisdom. Now, I think that they're older. A lot of people think they're older. I think that they were transcribed somewhere between 7,000 and 5,000 BC. So, and that makes a little more sense to me. If Lemurian Atlantis were 13 to 20,000 BC, then it makes sense that we would have had a gap of time between the time of those original evolutionary forms of humanity starting to develop. Because remember, when the Atlantean civilization fell, everybody who was in Atlantis fled to Egypt and to Tibet. You have to remember that our entire map looked very different thousands of years ago. Continents that are separated now were connected. What do they call it? Pangea, right? It was much easier to get from Egypt to Tibet in ancient times than it would be now, right? So the oldest Veda, one more time, the oldest Veda is called the Rig Veda. And you'll see two different spellings. You'll see RGVEDA, or you'll see RIGVEDA, Rig Veda, and that is the oldest of the Vedas. Yeah. So we've had a lot of earth movement, tectonic movement over time, which has shifted and reformed the continents into what we currently experience today. But sometimes it's fun to just imagine like how different this earth was in ancient times without assuming that it looked just like it does now, because it didn't. And so when you think about people migrating from one part of our planet to another, it's a lot easier to imagine that if you actually look at Pangaea, a map of Pangaea, and see, right? Oh, interesting. Yeah, Pangea is a fun word, and you should Google it and go down that rabbit hole. It's like, for me, something deep within me stirs when I see those images of what our world used to look like, right? Because the structure of the continents and the countries was so different. So I'm going to be going back and forth to my notes tonight because it's a lot of technical information that I'm sharing with you too. So by the way, Vedic astrology, older than Western astrology. Sidereal is what they call Vedic, or Jyotish. It's different, it's older than what we call Western or modern astrology, tropical astrology, okay? And so what happened was, and I don't want to make this into an astrology class, but it kind of helps you to understand, because you'll look and say, well, how come there's only 9 stones, right? Aren't there 12 signs? But Vedic astrology is based really primarily on the movement of 9 planets alone. And really some of them are not planets, right? The Vedic astrology model incorporates the North Node and the South Node, and those figure prominently into this alternative form of astrology. What happened was astrology developed in India and ultimately was transformed by the Zoroastrians, the Persians, right, the ancient Persians. And so the Zoroastrians, as it got filtered through the Zoroastrian civilization, the way that the planetary movements were calculated changed. So in Vedic astrology, your sign is based on the constellations and the stars. In Western astrology, modern astrology, your sun sign is based on the sun and the movement of the sun. And so if you ever see those reports that come out every couple of years and say, oh, you thought you were a Leo, but you're actually a Virgo because your sign changed. How many times have you seen that, like, coming across the wire? Sometimes even in the news they'll talk about it. What that's about is it's either 26 or 29,000, I think it's 26,000 years. Every 26,000 years, the constellations change in the sky. And that changes the sidereal assignments, okay? Because the sidereal assignments are based on the constellations, and because the position of the stars changes, then the Vedic astrology changes, and it migrates the degrees of the signs, so it looks like your sign changes. In Western astrology, right, which is based on the movement of the sun, it's static. And so if you're a Leo today, you're going to be a Leo 26,000 years from now, because we're not basing our Western modern astrology on the movement of the constellations. Does that make sense? That's like the easiest description I can give you of the difference between Western and Eastern astrology, or Vedic and tropical astrology. Do you have any questions about that? So it's slightly different. I will tell you this. Some people believe, because I have friends who practice and friends who have very strong opinions, but the people I respect the most are like, look, ultimately, both are accurate in their own way. They're going to give you sometimes slightly different information, but it rarely is it erratically in conflict, right? It's really true. It's really, really true. Your comments, you guys are so smart. You know a lot about this already. So, but I want to make sure you, yeah, that you know about the differences, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? It's beautiful, beautiful. Which would be more accurate? Well, Vedic astrologers are going to tell you that Vedic astrology is more accurate. And Western astrologers are going to tell you that tropical Western astrology is more accurate. And so it's like, well, shit. It's kind of like Republicans and Democrats, right? Republicans will tell you they're going to save the economy, and Democrats will tell you they're going to save the economy. And meanwhile, nobody saves the economy, right? That's why I have no party affiliation. I take a lot of pride as a priestess. I don't, having a political affiliation never resonated with me, so I don't have one. I'm not registered under a particular party. But it's always because I just like, you think you're right and you think you're right, and it's like, you're either both right or you're both wrong or somewhere in between, right? So anyway, I like Tiffany Fox, right? It's like, kind of go with what feels resonant to you. If you have time and money, you know what I mean? Go have a reading with a Western astrologer and go have a reading with an Eastern astrologer, and then, let me know what you think. Seriously. I'm of the mind, because here's the thing, guys. Spiritually, I don't think any path is wrong. I really don't. There are paths that I don't align to, but do I think a particular path is wrong? I mean, they all exist, right? So who am I to say, well, this is right and that's wrong, and they're in and you're out, and this is up and this is down? The more I learn spiritually, I just turned 48, and I've been studying spirituality in an intense way since I was 17. Like, in terms of taking classes and things, right? So I've been doing this stuff for 30 years. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. I really don't. I think this universe is so much more complicated than any of us can understand, and yet at the same time, Dave and I were out on my birthday. He took me to a nursery, and I don't want to digress, but we were talking about how complex these times are and how weird it is and how unknown everything seems, and we parked the car to go into the nursery, and I said, but look, and I pointed to a tree, and I swear to you, this tree, you guys, the center of the tree was so straight, and every subsequent branch was growing at what seemed like a mathematical angle, and the leaves were all so geometric. I mean, the tree was like a representation of divine perfection, okay? And I said, but look, and I pointed at the tree, and he's like, what? It's a tree. And I was like, where we can rest and have faith is that this universe is intelligent. And it's a bigger intelligence than my intelligence or our intelligence, right? And so it's like, but look at that tree. That tree tells me I'm good because I live in an intelligent universe. And so if I can rest and trust and have some faith, right, then I probably will be okay, and everything will probably be okay. But it's like, you have to sometimes look at nature to see that there's magic, but it's a magic that defies human logic or understanding, right? So anyway, I'm a scientist by training. I like to do my research, you know what I mean? I need data to prove things in order to believe it and all those things, which is super boring, but that's just how I am. I'm a skeptic. But all of that to say, I find real validity in what I'm teaching you tonight. It resonates with me, but I also find a ton of validity in Western astrology. And I do like this idea that astrology morphed as civilization was developing, right? And so we took what was Indian and authentic, right, Hindu, from these original texts, and it morphed over time, as wisdom does, right? It took out a new form, and we anchored it in something else. We anchored it in the sun. Now, is that wrong? No, it's just different, and probably has benefits and drawbacks, right? So anyway, that's my long way of saying to you, I don't think that one is better than the other, but they are different. And you might have a reading with a Vedic astrologer who will tell you you're a Virgo, when you have a reading with a tropical astrologer who will tell you you're a Leo. And ultimately, it's going to be up to you to decide how you integrate that information and make sense of it too. It's true, okay? It's like, you can look at the Fibonacci sequence, or the growth of a fern in your yard, or the fluttering of a butterfly's wings on its way to, like, how did the butterflies know to go from here to Michoacan, Mexico, to the canopy there in order to survive for the winter? Like, everything is guided. So we know we live in an intelligent universe, and tonight is just part of that magic. So Jennifer asked a great question. She said, our class tool stones seem in a different sequence than recommended in your book. Please speak to the meaning of the sequencing choices. I'll speak to it now, and then I'll probably come back to it at the end too, Jennifer. Because this is part of what's fun for me in my own process. I wrote the book about 3 years ago, and it every time you write a book, it's your best thinking at the time. Since then, I've probably talked to, I don't know, a dozen people about the Navaratna, about the Rig Veda, about the, because there's quite a few questions that you guys had that I want to try to get to tonight, even if you don't ask them, because those people might not be here, but I want to make sure they felt heard and seen. Everybody I've talked to has said, actually, the order doesn't matter. Okay? There are some people who will say, you have to wear it with the blue sapphire facing west, or they'll say, no, you have to wear it with the blue sapphire facing north. Oh my God, you have to. Everybody I've talked to, especially since writing the book, has said, it's fine to propose an order. There is no hard and fast truth to that. What I've been told consistently, okay, is that what matters is that you have the 9 and you wear them together. When you start to separate them, Jennifer, is when people get into trouble, okay? So what my friends have said, and these are especially my friends who are like really smart, but not necessarily like, they'll be like, don't go by that. But what they did say is you have to have the 9. It's very important. Now, another one of you asked a great question, and I want to address it too. So I'm going to do that now before I get too far in, because my fear is always I'm going to lose track of these questions. I can always answer it later, but I like to have it as part of the class. So here's an example of where it is okay to work with a stone separately or in the Navaratna, but they have to have a different size. This is where it gets complicated. Okay, the stone right under the bail in your pendant is hessonite garnet. Okay, right under the bail, right at the top. Okay, right above the ruby. That's a hessonite garnet. The hessonite garnet is known as the gomed because gomed is the Hindu or the Sanskrit word for Rahu, which is the north node. Okay, if you're working with hessonite garnet as part of the Navaratna, then it needs to be the same size as the other stones. You have to have the 9, and they have to be in the same size, and they have to be in a circle around the ruby. Why is that? Because the ruby represents the sun. Okay, so here's, and again, I'm trying to break this down as simply as I can, but I am a teacher. If I lose you or confuse you, will you please say you lost me or you confused me, and I will either repeat it or say it in a different way, because I don't want to lose track of anybody, but it does get a little confusing. Here's where I'm like, but wait a minute, okay? The Navaratna is designed around the sun with the ruby in the center, right? Except the Navaratna is part of Vedic astrology, right? Based on the 9 planets in Vedic astrology, which correspond to this idea that there's 9 gods, okay? The chief of the gods, by the way, in Vedic astrology is Jupiter, and I'll come back and talk about that as well, because it's very interesting to me. But riddle me this, Riddler. This is where I'm a skeptic too, okay? If Vedic astrology is not centered on the sun, why are the stones centered around the sun? Right? Like, why is that? So let me take you on a quick tour of the pendant up close, okay? So that we're all on the same page. I'm getting a pen so I can kind of point to the stones as we look at them together, okay? This is your pendant. Can you see it? Yeah. This is your garnet up here at the top under the bail. That's your hessonite garnet. Let me put my readers on. Hold on, because my eyes are real bad, honey. They didn't used to be, and I don't want to have LASIK because I don't want to have LASIK. It's expensive and it scares me. So you got to bear with my old sight here. Okay, so this is your, right here is your hessonite garnet. Over here is your cat's eye chrysoberyl to the right of that, okay? Well, yeah, but Michaela, the whole idea is that in Western astrology, the entire astrology is based on the sun as the center, right? But in Vedic astrology, it's based on the constellations. Anyway, for me, it's like something of an inconsistency, but, you know, it is what it is. Okay, then over here, you have your yellow sapphire, you have your red coral, You have your diamond, you have your emerald, you have your blue sapphire, you have your pearl, and your ruby. Let's do it one more time. Hessonite garnet, cat's eye chrysoberyl, yellow sapphire, red coral. Are you guys following? Okay. Diamond, emerald, sapphire, blue sapphire, pearl, and ruby. And those are the 9. And I made sure they made it open on the back. See how it's stamped SG925? Isn't that cute? So you know it's made for you. Yeah, a loop would be very helpful. Or just some nice, I recently bumped up my prescription. I'm now like I'm a 1 point, or actually these are 1.5. I bumped up to 2, but I'm still working with a 1.5. This, I believe, is a low quality but natural diamond, I believe. I will have to double check on that for you, but I believe it's a low quality but natural stone. Yeah. Gotta wear my readers, honey. It's very sweet, right? I know. I have damaged optic nerves from MS, which is why my vision is as bad as it is. But again, I don't want to have surgery or anything, so we just kind of deal with it in my house. Yeah, okay. Was that good enough for you guys to see the placement of all the stones? I didn't want to move forward until you knew what everything was. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Isn't that cool? How we were able to do this for you for $30, I just wanna point out, I think it's a miracle. When we reordered a few more for the website, we weren't able to get them at the same price. So that's why if you go to the website now, it's more expensive. But it's still less than you would probably pay anywhere else for it. It is a real pearl. Everything's real in it because I can't teach this to you without that. So everything is real, yeah. When these are sold out though, they're gone. Like we will not have any more of them. I think we have quite a few of them left though, because I know a lot of you didn't know we had any extras left. So if you did not get your tool and you want one, there's some on the website. I know, I thought about that. My friend knows Christina Applegate and reached out to me. But I always feel weird going, hi, you don't know me, but I have MS. Do you want to talk? I'm sure she's got a good support network. Okay, so coming back. So I want to walk through the importance of each of the stones with you, and I'm going to give you both the English name of the stone and I'm going to give you the Sanskrit name of the stone. And what's interesting is the Sanskrit names of the stones, yeah, they're both the same, Sherry Davis. The Sanskrit names of the stones are actually the 9 gods, right, of each of these planets. And so I like to call them by their Sanskrit names when we're dealing with them as the Navaratna, but you can still, choose to refer to them in their English names too. Yeah, it's interesting because it gives people a chance to learn about MS who might not have known about it otherwise. And for me, that's great because I just love the idea of raising awareness. So I'm not happy that she has it, but it does raise awareness so people get to know more about the disease too. Okay, so let's dive right in. What are the Navaratna? So ruby in the center represents the sun, the center of the constellations, right? And so you always have to have ruby at the center. That's the one thing that should not change. So if you go and if you get a Navaratna from me, if you get a Navaratna from somebody, I don't know, you go to India and you buy a Navaratna, I'm trying to get it to focus. The ruby should always be at the center of the 9. I don't know how to get it to focus on me. There we go. Okay. The word for the sun god is Surya. Surya. And you're going to hear when I play the mantra for you, which is again an invocation to the 9 gods to charge and activate and bless your tool tonight. When I play that for you in tonight's class, you're going to hear each of the names of the 9 gods mentioned in Sanskrit. And so that's kind of a cool thing too. The moon I should always have done the sun and the moon. They're both represented, right? The sun represents that masculine solar energy, and the moon represents that lunar feminine energy. The moon, and the Sanskrit name for the goddess of the moon is Chandra. You may have had friends. I had a friend growing up named Chandra. And I always thought it was such a beautiful name because she's the goddess of the moon, right? So that pearl represents the moon. My grandmother's name was Pearl, and I always thought of her that way too. She had that kind of like luminescent light spirit that you would associate with a moon goddess. But a lot of people don't think of the pearl as being connected to the moon. So Surya, which is the sun, the god of the sun, is S-U-R-Y-A, Surya. A lot of words in Sanskrit in the English spelling are actually phonetic, where they're spelled like they sound. Chandra, for example, which is the pearl, the moon goddess, is C-H-A-N-D-R-A. Isn't that cool? Jennifer's mom's name is Chanda. Isn't that awesome? And Elisa knew a Chandra too. Your great-grandmother was Pearl, Jessica? I almost named Zoe Pearl. She wishes I had, but I think she's got a good name. Now the red coral probably won't surprise you that that represents Mars. It's the only other red stone, and Mars is a red planet. So of course you have to have a red material. And we know that coral's not really a stone, right? It's a living material. But that little red coral represents Mars. And the Sanskrit, the god of Mars is Mangala. M-A-N-G-A-L-A. Yeah. Okay, and then the emerald represents Mercury. And I have to tell you, at first I was like, really? I mean, when I started learning about the Navaratna, some of it felt intuitive, like, yeah, I can see that the ruby would be sun because it's really powerful and kind of masculine, right? I think of the ruby as being somewhat masculine. But I really, with emerald, I was like, Mercury? Then I was like, well, I don't know what I would expect, Mercury to be. But if you think about it, emerald is a mental stone. It's about wisdom and discernment. It's also about fidelity and integrity. And a lot of those are about what you think and what you say, right? So it makes sense that Mercury, which is the planet of communication, and communication, right, with Thoth, who wrote the Emerald Tablet. It's all about communication. And Thoth, right, is connected to Mercury. He's often called Hermes Trismegistus. Are you seeing where I'm going? I know Ginny Reader's with me. So here is one kind of hint of a connection between ancient Atlantis, ancient Egypt, and ancient India. Isn't it fascinating that we have this connection between Mercury and Emerald and Thoth and the tablets, and I'm like, I see you, baby. I see where you're going with that. So Mercury, now the name of the god of Mercury in Sanskrit is Buddha, B-U-D-H-A, 1D. Yeah. And then yellow sapphire is considered one of the most powerful of the 9 because Jupiter in Vedic astrology is considered the father of the planets, the father of the gods of the Navaratna. And so you'll sometimes see yellow sapphire. You'll sometimes see yellow sapphire denoted as guru, G-U-R-U, right? Teacher. It's like it's the leader or the teacher. But it's also referred to as Brihaspati, B-R-I-H-A-S-P-A-T-I, Brihaspati. Jupiter's not my favorite planet, but close to it. Okay, Jupiter brings us good luck, good fortune. When Jupiter's in your sign, it just blows up your sign, brings you blessings, right? Jupiter going retrograde this fall, in the context of a global pandemic, kind of scares the crap out of me. I have to say that's the one planetary movement I'm watching with a lot of curiosity, and I'm not the only one. My friends who practice Ayurveda and Ayurvedic astrologers are have all messaged me and said, are you making meaning of the fact that Jupiter's going retrograde at what seems like the 4th wave of the pandemic? And I'm like, I'm trying not to make meaning of that. But anyway, even in Vedic astrology, Jupiter is considered sort of the king of the gods, right? And Jupiter as a planet is very powerful. Again, when it's in your sign, it's going to bring you good luck, good fortune. So that's Brihaspati, and that's symbolized by the yellow sapphire. Yellow sapphire is another stone, I'm going to tell you, we had yellow sapphires for a while at Sage Goddess. I don't know that we do anymore. Would you check, Alexis? Yellow sapphire is one stone that if you don't have it in your collection, and it doesn't matter if you get it from me or somewhere else, I would get a piece of yellow sapphire and wear it. You know, get it. I've had some faceted ones in the gem sales and stuff. Get yourself a yellow sapphire and wear it. Yellow sapphire brings Jupiter energy into your field, and it's known as a stone in Vedic astrology of serendipity, right? Of good luck, good fortune, expansion. Jupiter makes things bigger, right? Yellow sapphire's Sanskrit name is Brihaspati or Guru. Yeah. Yeah, Brihaspati, but you'll also see it as Guru, G-U-R-U, because it's considered to be the teacher of the nine. Isn't that interesting? Now you have to know, it's not, above the nine is Shiva. Shiva is said to sit on the nine planets. Like, right? Of course Shiva sits on the nine planets. But Jupiter's kind of in charge of the nine, you know, as a unit. But then if you want to know like who's really in charge, it's Shiva. Shiva created the nine planets and sits on the nine planets. And there's images in Hindu mythology of Shiva sort of going like this across the planets, right? Turning them, rotating them. We know that that's not actually what's happening, but there are legends about Shiva spinning the planets and things. Mm-hmm. Golden sapphire and yellow sapphire are usually the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yellow's yellow. There's only one, you know, kind of yellow sapphire. There's a duo of yellow and blue. Okay. So anyway, if you, I mean, wherever you get it, you can find some really cool yellow sapphires online. But I would get, that's one of the ones you can kind of break out of the nine and use separately. What I was gonna say previously that I think I forgot to say, but it's really important. Well, let me get to Hessonite and then I'll talk to you about it then. Diamond. I'm really excited tonight to get to talk to you about diamonds. You may notice I wear diamonds and I don't take them off. And that's partly because of Vedic astrology. So diamonds are the result of carbon, right? And so diamonds are carbon-based minerals. Tibetan quartz is another carbon-based mineral. I have sorted out on my own that carbon-based minerals are associated with health and healing. So I'm a big believer in diamond and Tibetan quartz as potentially the most important master healing crystals there are. I've never heard anybody else say that, and most crystal healers I know don't talk about diamond. Have you noticed? They'll talk about Herkimer diamond or Pakimer diamond from Pakistan. But I've never heard any of the main crystal healers in my world or community talk about diamonds. And it might be because diamonds are expensive, but I'm going to tell you this. You should at some point have a diamond that you wear and do not take off. And it can be a rough diamond, and you can have so much fun with this. Go on eBay and get a rough diamond for yourself. Diamonds are octahedral, and you'll find relatively affordably a really nice rough diamond that you can have set into a ring. Sylvia Peluso, who's my favorite jeweler, will sometimes put rough diamonds into her designs. And I think it's because she's on that same page. It's very important. And it does not have to be great quality. It does not have to be cut and polished. It can be rough. It can be small. It can be just a chip. But I really recommend at some point that you have a diamond because it's very important energetically. And I really want to see crystal healers working with diamonds and talking about diamonds. I'm trying to source raw diamonds for sagegoddess.com right now, but it's really hard because a lot of the main diamond mines have been shut down for a good chunk of the pandemic, but I'm working on it. Yeah, so you have one here. If you don't have the tool, at some point I would recommend, again, and I'll tell you something, when it comes to diamonds, it's very easy to get completely ripped off because diamonds are a huge industry in the US, and if you go to a K jeweler or something like that, you are way overpaying. So find a local jeweler, somebody who'll be honest with you, and like I said, it does not have to be big, but I really, really recommend it. Rough diamonds are absolutely beautiful because they have that true octahedral shape. And I mean, I will tell you, if I was getting married again, I would get an octahedral rough diamond. They're that magnificent. I have a friend who chose a raw, rough octahedral diamond for her engagement ring about 2 years ago, and oh my God, I mean, it is absolutely, I mean, if you're like me and you're into that, a lot of them have record keepers on them. They are a sight to behold. So anyway, that's my recommendation. Diamond in Vedic astrology Black diamonds are great. Diamonds in Vedic astrology are associated with Venus. And so they're associated with beauty, perfection, completion, integration, healing, blessings, ease, flow, abundance. Watch out for pawn shops, because a lot of times, here's my thing about pawn shops. I love going in them because it's fun to look around, and I'm a thrifter. Like, I like to go, see what people have just for fun. But a lot of times when people surrender things to pawn shops, they don't want to. It's under duress, and the energy sticks in that way. With diamonds, you have to worry about a couple of things. You have to worry about buying one that someone had to sell and didn't want to, because their energy is still attached to it. You have to worry about something called blood diamonds, because at least in Africa, a lot of people are, injured and killed in the blood trade. What's the third thing I wanted to tell you about diamonds? They really hold a frequency because they're so powerful. So you want to make sure that it's fair trade and that it was not resold from someone who had to sell it because they needed the money or because they got a divorce, or you know what I mean? Like, you don't want that energy on a stone. So that's my only cautionary tale. There are some really great people on eBay. I don't have one particular person that I would recommend to you, but you have to go by the reviews and word of mouth. You know what I mean? As with everything, I don't write eBay off completely, but I do think you have to read people's reviews and do your diligence and then, cross your fingers. Okay, now the god of, our goddess of Venus is Shukra, S-H-U-K-R-A, Shukra, yeah. Don't worry if you got a ring from a pawn shop. If you feel good with it, it's probably fine. It's not everybody who goes to a pawn shop does something that they don't want to be doing, but I would smudge it. The reality is most, diamonds in not most, but a lot of jewelry, especially diamonds, get resold, right? So it's not the worst thing ever, but you can definitely clear it with white sage smoke, with some copal smoke or palo santo, with prayers. You can also send that person good energy, energy of integration and completion to sort of close that cycle. There's never anything energetically that can't be undone, in my opinion. But, if it feels good to you, it's probably fine. Usually people know if they've got a piece of jewelry where it's like, oof, that wasn't good, right? And getting your grandmother's ring or a relative's ring, it's actually, for me, makes it higher vibrational. I have one small diamond from my mom. This is from my dad. This was my 18th birthday present from my dad. Isn't that crazy? It's 30 years old. Actually 30 years old this week. I didn't think about that till just now. Yeah, he was all excited to give me that little diamond up there. It was from my papa. You can absolutely clean any stone. So just run it through some, if you can go to a body of running water, a river is my favorite place to clear and cleanse a stone, because water is so purifying. And if it's from a running source in nature, that's the best place to clear a stone. So if you're ever going hiking or going up in the mountains or something like that, or you're going to be near the ocean, just hold on to your jewelry, because it can run away in the water real quickly, I've learned. So diamond is very important, and not just because it's associated with Venus in Vedic astrology, but because I do believe that carbon-based minerals are master healers. And I think that's going to be something we learn in our lifetimes. And people will look back and go, oh yeah, I started wearing diamonds and my pain was better. There's a difference in my pain level if I'm wearing a diamond and if I'm not. And that's partly what got me on this kind of kick about diamonds. But again, it does not have to be big, and it does not have to be cut and faceted. It can be natural, raw, and small, and still have the same impact. Yeah. Okay, blue sapphires represent Saturn, and the god of Saturn is Shani, S-H-A-N-I. Now, some Vedic astrologers are going to talk about Shani, like, ooh, Shani, you know what I mean? Like, because Saturn is so scary and stuff. And there are some Vedic astrologers who say you can only wear a sapphire if, your rising sign is your rising sign is X, Y, and Z, and it's not A, B, and C. Again, the Vedic astrologers I know have been like, it's not, they're not seeing that as hard and fast. And you will see so much conflicting information out there. And that's why what I want to tell you is, go with your gut around sapphire. I wear a lot of sapphires because it's one of my favorite stones. I always have a necklace on, my bracelet is sapphire, this ring is sapphire, this my thumb ring is sapphire. I love sapphires. I'm a teacher, and it's the teacher stone, right? So it helps you remember information, it helps you communicate it effectively, it opens your third eye like nobody's business. And sapphires are relatively, blue ones are relatively affordable, even in decent size and decent quality, right? Um, oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, New Nurse RN said, I love the idea of sending the original owner of the diamond good energy. It's really true. If you ever receive a piece of jewelry and you're not sure about it, just blow on it and send love to the original owner. I think that's the best thing you can do to clear it out. Did you really? Yeah. So everybody I've talked to who's really knowledgeable and I trust would tell you, do not buy into the gloom and doom. Oh my God, if you wear sapphire and you're an Aries rising, it's gonna, or whatever it is. I mean, that's not necessarily true. And I know plenty of people who wear sapphires from every astrological background and have no problems with it, right? Same way Rachel Murphy that I was describing before, running water, sage smoke, your breath, the intention to clear it, working with it at a new moon to reprogram. Diamonds are the only other minerals in my experience other than quartz that can be programmed to hold the vibration, and wow, do they do it. That's why I'm such a proponent, right? Okay, so Shani is the Sanskrit name for sapphire in Vedic astrology. Hessonite. So let's talk about Hessonite for a second. This is where I wanted to get back to some of the questions that you guys had because they were fantastic questions. I don't want to lose track of them. So in India, you will hear Hessonite garnet referred to as the Gomed, okay, because that is the Sanskrit name for Rahu, which is the north node, okay, in Vedic astrology. So when you hear Gomed, in India, Gomed is like synonymous with Hessonite garnet. Okay, some people call Hessonite garnet cinnamon garnet, and you can probably see why. Again, it's the stone that's at the top. It looks so pretty when it's out of focus, but I do want you to see it. It looks like 1,000 little points of light on there. Isn't that pretty? Come on, camera. So it's the orange stone under the veil. And so some people call it cinnamon garnet. It's like a cinnamon color, and you'll see it sold as cinnamon garnet, okay? Does it matter if sapphire's lab created? According to purists, it does. This is not a lab created, like none of the stones in this ring are lab created. According to purists, it does matter. Yeah. No, the Hessonite garnet, it's ruby in the center of your pendant, and the Hessonite garnet is the orange stone above the ruby, right under the veil. The only other orangey stone is the red coral, and that's opaque. So you're looking for the orange stone that's kind of translucent, okay? So here's what I want to tell you about Hessonite garnet. If you are working with Hessonite garnet as part of the Navaratna, okay, what it's representing is your path, your dharma, your purpose, okay? Now, if you're working with it for wealth, abundance, and prosperity, which is slightly different from its role in the Navaratna, it does also attract wealth and abundance, but some of the other stones do a better job of that in the Navaratna. Okay, if you're working with Hessonite in the Navaratna as part of the 9, it needs to be the same size as the other 8 stones. And usually they're very small, like what you have in your amulet that I've given you this month. If you're working with it to attract material wealth specifically, then they recommend having a piece that is 2 carats or bigger. This is what Christina G is asking, okay? It is not bad luck to work with a smaller Hessonite, but in some people's opinion, it will not attract massive financial wealth to you the same way if it's not in that carat size, 2 carats or larger, okay? When we're working with it in the Navaratna, we're not working with it strictly for its wealth bringing capabilities. We're working with it as a representation of Rahu. Does that make sense? So if you're worried about the carat size, what's happening is you're confusing the Navaratna with the the other properties of hessonite garnet. Okay, now what you could do, and I'm going to tell you something right now, if you go and do this, I want pictures, I want video, and at some point I want to borrow it, okay? Because this is bucket list for me, but I've never done it, and I don't know that I'll ever get around to doing it. My dream, no Barbara, I don't. My dream has been to create a piece of jewelry with the 9 stones at 2 carats or larger. But go with me mentally on that journey and think about getting a 2 carat diamond, okay, or larger, a 2 carat sapphire or larger, a 2 carat emerald or larger, a 2 carat cat's eye chrysoberyl or larger. It probably would run you, I'm guessing, to do this, because you have to do it in solid gold, ideally. I'm guessing this would run you between, and if they're decent quality stones, $25,000 to $50,000. I don't have that. And I haven't ever made. I think if I told Dave, hey, you know what, honey? You know what I want for Christmas? He would literally look at me. I mean, you guys know Dave. He would literally look at me and then turn around and walk away. He would be like, no, you have that nice necklace. It's very nice. Now, are there people who have done this? Of course there are, right? If you start poking around online and looking at pictures of people's crazy ass Navaratna jewelry, of course people have done it. Have I done it? No, because I enjoy being married. And that may end everything for me real quick. You know what I want? The sun, the moon, and all the 9 gods and planets in one piece of jewelry. Thank you. Now he would think I was joking and run away. And the reality is I would be joking, so. But if you do it, I want pictures, I want video, and I want to borrow it. I promise I will give it back to you. I really do. Interesting, Joanne. You only have to send me a picture. I don't even know. I just know it wouldn't happen. But at least 25K. And it probably would only be 25K if you're working with somebody you know. If you're working with a jeweler where you just walk in and start designing this, and they don't know you and they're not giving you a good deal, yeah, you're going to be in the probably 50 to 75K range. And not happening for me today. Okay, but anyway. But Hessonite's another one, you guys, that you can pull out of this and wear separately. Like I'm wearing the Hessonite ring. This is the Hessonite Lakshmi ring, right? I have a couple of pieces of Hessonite garnet, like just, sterling silver rings and stuff, but they're pretty. I have a little pendant that's a natural Hessonite garnet. And so I like to work with it. So, but again, if you're working with it as a wealth attracting stone, then you do want to work with something, ideally it's good quality, ideally it's 2 carats plus, and that's the rule for that. Yeah. Can you imagine the Sisterhood of the Traveling big ass Navaratna? I'd be down for that. I'd be like, I will take 2 weeks in June and then I will pass it on, right? Okay, so that's Hessonite. And then the last in the mix of the 9 is chrysoberyl. And I have a little obsession with chrysoberyl. When I was writing Crystal Lore, the crystal history book, I wrote a chapter on the crystals of the Bible. And I had at that time been connected to somebody in Brazil who was mining chrysoberyl. They had found a small pocket of chrysoberyl, which you have to know, chrysoberyl is super rare. Alexandrite is a member of the chrysoberyl family. I taught you about that the other night in the gem show. And so chrysoberyl is one of the most rare stones on the planet, and it has a property called chatoyancy, okay? So chrysoberyl, when you look at it straight on, especially if you're in nice bright light or outside in sunlight, it'll have a line down the center. And when you turn from side to side, the line kind of moves. Did any of you, Shran made an 18 karat gold chrysoberyl ring last year that I had during one of our gem sales. Was it one of you who bought it? There were either 1 or 2 of those. That was the only solid gold cat's eye chrysoberyl ring I've ever seen. I think it was under $1,000. We had 2 of them. For the life of me, I can't remember who got it, and I sometimes think about, like, do they wear it? Do they like it? I've been asking him to make me more of those. But cat's eye chrysoberyl is just super magic. It was mentioned in the Bible. And so that's why it's got this, you know, and you'll see it mentioned in different ways under different names. Yeah, Cheryl Clark won the grand prize, and she is designing a sapphire and peridot ring right now that I'm working on with Shram, trying to figure out how to design her piece. It's so exciting. So yeah, we finally got permission to announce the winner of the grand prize. I don't like to announce it without their permission, so. Okay, and then, so chrysoberyl in the Navaratna represents Ketu, which is the south node. And so you'll either see it referred to as Ketu or Varduryam, 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 Varduryam. Yeah, we had those chrysoberyl angels. Do you remember those? Same stone, by the way. Now the chrysoberyl, cat's eye chrysoberyl that Shram was making into the rings is cat's eye, which is a little bit different, more of a gem quality. I also had some cat's eye chrysoberyl cabochons that I got in Tucson one year. I think I gave one away in Soul Shift. Anyway, I've only seen cat's eye chrysoberyl in person less than half a dozen times. It's that rare. Sometimes you can find it online at a good price, but you know, if you go to Etsy and start searching cat's eye chrysoberyl, yeah, it gets real expensive real fast. But we're talking about super rare stones, and that's why I was like, I love the idea that one day having a big Navaratna something. I just think it's completely out of budget, out of line, because what's interesting is diamond would not end up being the most expensive stone in your Navaratna, right? If you want a really nice quality ruby, if you want a really good quality emerald, if you want a really good quality cat's eye chrysoberyl, each one of those on its own is going to be ridiculously expensive. Hessedite garnet is ruled by Rahu, which is the north node. Now Rahu and Saturn are said to be, I'm so happy for you, Cheryl. I can't wait to read for you. I'm really excited to read for you. It'll take us a minute to sort out because my schedule is kind of a mess. But it's now looking like we may not be going to Denver. So once I sort out what we're doing because of COVID, and so once I sort out what we're doing with Denver, that'll open maybe another week in my schedule for me to squeeze you in. Yeah, your ruby is bigger than the rest, and that's because oftentimes what's in the center, who mentioned that? I can't, Sheila. Oftentimes they'll make the ruby slightly larger because it's in the center of the 9. Yeah, but they're all kind of in that same size wave. So the Sanskrit name for hessonite is Gomed, G-O-M-E-D. Sometimes you'll see it G-O-M-E-D-H, so I just want to put both those spellings out there. So again, the gods are Surya is the ruby and the god of the sun. Chandra, I think if I had another daughter, I would name her Chandra. I think it's such a beautiful name, isn't it? Goddess of the moon, that's the pearl. Mangala is Mars, and that's your red coral. Buddha, B-U-D-H-A, is Mercury, and that's emerald. And then Brihaspati or Guru is how you see yellow sapphire referred to, and that aligns to Jupiter. Diamond, the goddess of Venus, is Shukra, S-H-U-K-R-A. And then blue sapphire is Saturn, that's Shani, S-H-A-N-I. Hessonite is Rahu, that's the north node, and that is Gomed, G-O-M-E-D, or G-O-M-E-D-H. We all just want to see your ring, Cheryl. And then chrysoberyl aligns to Ketu, which is the south node, right? So your south node is it was your north node in your last lifetime, right? So whatever you were here to do last time, the way you know is it shows up as your south node in this lifetime. So whatever your south node is, that aligns to Ketu, K-E-T-U, and that is the south node, and that's cat's eye chrysoberyl. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, are you good? You guys feel good? Don't have any questions right now? Okay. Now I want to come back and talk to you, and I want to play the mantra and do the activation and do the meditation, and then, like I said, I'm hoping there'll be some time at the end for us just to have open Q&A. Yeah, they are across from each other, your sapphires, which I think is really cool too. I will tell you, this is an exquisitely designed necklace, and you'll be seeing me wear it. I hope you'll wear yours too. You don't have to take extra good care of this. It's going to last you a long time. You know what I mean? It's not going to tarnish because it has the 14K over it. So I hope you really enjoy it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so one of the things that's interesting to me is I think of the Navaratna, and I know this is probably a strange word to use, but I think of it as a technology. It's like I said, I think of it as the original Synergy 12, the original 12 or 9 stones that our ancestors looked at and said, these stones have vibrational value. Um, and remember that 9 in Western and Eastern astrology is considered completion of cycles, right? If you think about numerology, it goes 1 to 9. And the 9s in numerology are the people who are able to close the circle. Is it 24K over it? Oh, good. Even better. 24K is more durable, so I'm glad to know that. I thought it was 14. Is all cat's eye man-made? No. This is not man-made. There is real cat's eye, but you know when I do the little stars in cat's eye, if those were natural stones, they would be worth probably $500,000. So there is a man-made form of cat's eye, but there's also very real cat's eye. That's why I was asking, because I've had jewelry made for you in natural cat's eye before for the gem sales. I couldn't remember who bought it though. Yeah. Okay, so I believe it's a technology. Here's what the Navaratna does. Can we talk about this? And then I want to share with you some ways as a crystal healer I like to work with it. And that's why you may find yourself working with it more than even wearing it, okay? When I have pain, I place the Navaratna on the place where I have pain with the stones facing down, okay? You will also find the Navaratna works as a very accurate pendulum, and you can sort of test that even just now, but mine is extremely accurate. I've been working with it for the past, ever since I got it. I mean, it is just moving. So it's an accurate pendulum. The 9 together have always worked that way for me. Even when I had the Navaratna ring, I would pop it on a chain and use it as a pendulum, still accurate. It is like a cosmic wheel when you look at it. But there are so many systems in our, if you think about it in magic, the Enneagram, right, which I'm going to teach hopefully next year as part of Soul Shift. The Enneagram, Ennea in Greek is 9, so there are 9 types in the Enneagram, right? So 9 is an important number in spirituality in general. But you can use it as a pendulum, you can apply it topically when there's pain. You can also use it to assess and evaluate the energy in the body just by dowsing over the body. And I've taught you how to do this before, so if this is the head and this is the legs down here, you can literally just run it over the body to assess and evaluate the health of the body. I just taught you about the different lines on your hands too at new moon, right? The head line, the heart line, the fate line, the life line, as being also things that you can read. You can read those lines on the palm. Is this line in balance? Is this line in balance? Is the lifeline or the fate line in balance? Is the lifeline in balance? So all the things that I've taught you kind of merge here, and you can use this tool to evaluate that too. Yeah. I've never taught the Enneagram. I've studied it for a long time, so this might be part of Soul Shift next year. But I do, and what's interesting too. It's interesting that Annette mentioned it's kind of like a cosmic wheel. The chakra in Sanskrit means wheel. And the way energy flows through your body is through wheels, right? So this is, in a way, it's kind of a dumb thing to say, but this is like the one wheel to rule them all. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because according to the Vedas, the 9 represent everything energetically in your field, including your 7 chakra system. So when you wear this, it repels negativity. I call it the original Shungite, because they had Navaratna before they had Shungite. It filters energy. It prevents unfortunate events. That's the way they frame it. It heals what they call malefic, M-A-L-E-F-I-C, It heals malefic influences. Some of the planets have a dark side, right? Rahu, Saturn in Vedic astrology are considered to be planets that can both be beneficial to you and harmful to you, depending, right? Saturn, even in Western astrology, we think of Saturn as being the planet of hard knocks, right? Like, you're learning your life lessons, you're, being taken to task by Saturn sometimes. And so even in Western astrology, we sometimes talk about Saturn as being that way. I shouldn't have said quoting The Lord of the Rings is dumb, but I will tell you, Michelle Miller, and this is not a joke, in my life. Molly, her pearl popped out. Send it back to us. We'll fix it for you, or we'll get you a new one. We'll just replace it. That's so weird. Well, maybe that's a message to you about moon energy. But in my life, if you want to be my friend and you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, I do actually make the request that people watch it. I have a friend that I've only been friends with for a couple of years, but we're super, super close. And she confided in me. She's like, I hate to tell you this, but I've never seen it. And I'm like, well, you don't have to watch it all in one weekend. You can pace yourself. But there's a lot of things about me you won't understand unless you've seen Lord of the Rings. Ooh, Annette, I love that idea, right? She was talking about making like a shield to place on your walls in your home. Maybe you should make it and then sell it. And I'll buy one. Okay. So it heals the Navaratna, and this is why I really wanted to, let me say this again, because this is a question some of you had, and I think it's a really important question, and I want to make sure I address it. It not only is it okay to work with these stones in these sizes and these configurations, when you work with the 9 together, it actually prevents some of what they say are the potentially negative effects. So when you work with the 9, you don't have to worry about, should I be working with sapphire or not? Should I be working with, cat's eye chrysoberyl or not, depending on placements of certain planets and so on and so forth. So what my friends all say is, if you don't have to worry about any of it if you're wearing the 9. The 9 balance each other out. The positive aspects of yellow sapphire, for example, neutralize some of the potentially negative effects of the blue sapphire. Does that make sense? So as long as you have the 9, it's a self-regulating system. It's a self-regulating technology. Rebette's asking for the Hessonite garnet name again, which is Rahu, R-A-H-U, but also Gomed, G-O-M-E-D. Yeah, you're being inspired, Annette. Go do it, girl. And then, send me a link. Protection, filtering, healing of negative influences, energetic balance and alignment, physical recovery is the final of the properties that are attributed to the Navaratna. So that's the benefit of wearing the 9 together. Again, you can see why somebody would go on a quest to get the 9 and make their own jewelry and all of these things, but again, it's expensive. You have to know that you're getting your stones from a source where you can guarantee at least their authenticity, right? And then the larger, because the 9 happen to be very rare stones, the larger they get, the more expensive it gets. Yeah. Well, Janisa, there was some overlap. Janisa's asking, she said, what if the 9-stone gemstone chest plate of the high priest in the Bible, right, were the Navaratna? There's some overlap, but there's some differences too. If you look at I have a chapter on the stones of the Bible, Aaron's breastplate, and I have a chapter on the Navaratna. And so if you have Crystal Lore Legends and Myths, you can actually look at the chapters side by side and see the differences and distinctions. I did the incredibly hard work of going and translating and giving you all of the English equivalents of the potential stones of Aaron's breastplate from the Bible. I will tell you, I've written a doctoral dissertation in 3 books, and I've had 2 children. So I know pain. Writing Crystal Lore Legends and Myths was more painful than childbirth. I read about 70 books in the process of writing that book. I interviewed at least 24 people for hours. I had about 1,600 pages of notes. And so when you look at Crystal Lore Legends and Myths, and you have to know, as an author, when it came up on Amazon and it cost like $13 or whatever it is, I'm just like, It's like, no, that book like shaved years off my life. I would never write another history book. It was not the most pleasant experience. But I'm really glad that I did it. There's no modern history book of crystals, and so it's my contribution to the field. But literally, it took me like 2 weeks to clean after I was done with crystal lore because I had stacks and stacks and stacks and nobody could move them because I knew exactly what was in each stack. Insane. So I highly recommend if you want to be an author, choose a non-history book. But I'm really glad I did it because I do think it was an important contribution to the field of crystal wisdom. My publisher for those books is also the same publisher as Judy Hall. And she went to Judy first and said, I want you to write this book on crystal history. And Judy declined the project. And so that's how I ended up writing the book. Isn't that funny? Judy was like, oh, hell no. You were smart, Judy, to say no to it. Aww. That's a true story. Judy Hall said no. Yeah, so I did it. She didn't tell me that, by the way, my publisher, until I was done. And I told her, I'm like, you know, this book literally took probably 10 years off my life. And she's like, that's probably why Judy said no. I was like, well, shit. Now I know, right? Fun little nuggets around here. Okay. Now, a couple other things I want to tell you real quick, right? Because I think these are just, since we're talking Navaratna, I want to make sure I kind of give you the full brain drain, okay? If you have a ring, a Navaratna ring, and you're going to be like straight up traditional purist, okay? You have to wear it on your ring fingers. Now, what's interesting is, and I think, again, I think these are the little things that those of you who study metaphysics and world history will find kind of interesting, because I always look for those kind of like common threads. It traditionally, coming from the Vedas, okay, with the Navaratna and which hands to wear them on, the right hand is said to be the hand that men, the right ring finger is where men should wear a Navaratna ring. And the left ring finger, according to the Vedas, is where women should wear a Navaratna ring. To this day, we think about the right hand as the projecting hand, right? And we think about the left hand as the receiving hand. That information, for your information, comes from the Vedas. And actually is based on the original guidance of where and how to work with the Navaratna as a ring. Isn't that interesting? Is it better for me to order outside of Amazon? No. Authors get royalties no matter where you buy your books. It's not very much, so it doesn't kind of matter. Honestly, writing books is not a very lucrative endeavor. The only reason I wrote books was to add to the wisdom in the field and have a legacy, because I still think books are kind of cool. Yeah. I honestly, again, I'm going to tell you, that's why I gave you the caveat at the beginning of this class. I'm not a purist. I don't follow all the rules. Wear the ring on whatever hand you want to wear it on. Okay, but if you want to know, I still like to give you what the book says, and then how you choose to take that information and work with it, totally up to you. Right? But interesting, right? Thank you, Jessica Hicks, for that very important additional anatomy lesson. But if you want to break the rules, you're up to you. I have never heard anybody say that there's like energetic fallout from changing the order. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think you're at risk of anything like that. I'm opening up my computer because I'm going to get ready to play the mantra for you, which is good because my battery's almost dead. Let me just pull it up real quick so I have it ready.
Did you know that there is a natural method?
And this was at 2 minutes 55 seconds. Hold on just a second. I'll post the link to this because I don't want you to have to like go searching for it. And it's not the best version I've found, but it's the shortest version I found because I didn't want to take up like 10 minutes of your class time with this. So I'll tee that up and then we'll be ready. Okay, now, the last little juicy tidbit for tonight. Can it be used for something other than jewelry and grids? Well, that's what I was saying earlier, pendulum, and also for laying on the body, the Navaratna. So this is a tool, again, if you're working with someone and they're having pain, if you want to evaluate the balance in the body, this is a great tool to use to run as a dowsing tool across the body. Usually for me, it will go north-south if everything is balanced and aligned, and it will go east-west if it's not. It's actually showing you what the east-west looks like. So if I'm across a part of the body where there's an imbalance, it will go east-west. And then again, I find that anything with especially diamond for me is a pain reliever. So I would like you to start to work with this when you're having physical pain, placing it on the body to see if it helps you with physical pain too. Yeah. Okay. Now, Navagraha. Navaratna means 9 stones. Ratna means stones. Graha means God. Okay. So the Navagraha are the 9 gods of the 9 planets. Okay. And to activate, okay, and you can totally use it on your dog. Crystals are great for animals. Bodhi is obsessed with essential oils and crystals. Obsessed. It really blew my mind how much he was instantly connected to it and loves it. So use it with your animals too. So to activate your Navaratna, you are supposed to play or recite, but we're going to play it, the sound of the Navagraha mantra, which is an invocation to the 9 gods of the 9 planets that are represented by the Navaratna. Okay, so Navagraha is Navagraha. Okay. So I'm going to play this mantra for you now, and I will post the link for you, or have Alexis post the link for you a little bit later. And I'm going to turn this up so you can hear it.
It says, Adityaya cha somaya, Mangalaya budhaya cha, Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha, Rahave Ketave Namah.
Okay, I'm going to play that one more time, because that came and went really quickly.
Mangalaya budhaya. It says, Adityaya cha somaya, Mangalaya budhaya cha, Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha, Rahave Ketave Namah.
Let's do it one more time.
Cha, Ra.
And just place it over your...
Anybody can chant.
Place it over your third eye.
It says, Adityaya cha somaya, Mangalaya budhaya cha, Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha, Rahave Ketave Namah.
And so what he included in that mantra was all 9 of the Sanskrit names. And it's a quick one. And so with that mantra, we have activated this tool. And you only need to play it once. Now, if you're like me, and you like to go down rabbit holes, there are actually long extended, she is the link poster. There are long extended versions of each one of those mantras. And you'll find videos on YouTube where they have just the Rahu mantra for like 10 minutes, 108 recitations of just the Rahu mantra. And then you'll find another video that has just the Chandra, just the moon mantra, and a recitation of that 108 times. Then you can get your mala out if you want and go through the whole recitation, 108, 108, 108, right? So anyway, Navagraha mantra on YouTube is going to turn up the whole volume on this whole conversation. But it is a tongue twister, each one of the mantras. Now I printed them out and I did recite them just in the process of preparing for class. But some mantras are absolute tongue twisters. Like I've got the Gayatri mantra memorized, because that's one I've just said so many times. And it's a tongue twister too, but I've probably said the Gayatri mantra thousands of times in my lifetime. So I'm good, I've memorized it and it's accurate. But when it comes to, for me, it takes me a long time because Sanskrit is not native to me. And I do find as an English speaker, I'm a linguist by training, and I do find like the tongue, if you're an English speaker, there's certain languages where the tongue just doesn't want to go and do the thing. So it's not, for me, Sanskrit does not come as naturally, right? Why couldn't you use crystals with animals? Well, I was saying I do. If there are people who don't, I suppose that's okay, but I think, my only caveat about using crystals with animals would just be to make sure they can't eat them or swallow them, right? But unfortunately or fortunately, my animals are around crystals nonstop. I'm pretty respectful of them too, yeah. So Roni is native French speaker, so maybe your tongue Could get around Sanskrit a little bit better. For me, I just feel a little bit like it doesn't flow as easily for me. Yeah. I put the stones facing my third eye, and you can decide what feels right and best for you. Let me close my computer. So you might enjoy, away from the third eye. It would be really cool, I think, to have a piece of jewelry made. And maybe you could even take your pendant off and do this. Like, isn't that kind of beautiful? I'm thinking like a headpiece where you would wear it and it would like land or fall at the third eye. The other thing that would be so cool to do, you guys, and I might do this. If I do, I'll show it to you because I make malas and I know some of you do too. Make this, put this above the tassel of your mala. Can you imagine? And there are people who make Navaratna malas. Now again, are they real stones? What are they using for diamond? I mean, that's why I haven't made one for you, because it's like, I don't know how to make you a diamond mala. Again, without having to be big old bucks. I wouldn't even know what that would look like. So anyway, just be creative, you know what I mean? And in your crystal healing practice, at a minimum, you should wear this when you're doing your crystal healing, and I'll tell you why. Because it's protective, because it's purifying, because it's integrating, because it balances your chakras. One of the things I'm always looking for as a crystal healer and as a healer in general is are tools that I can work with that help protect my energy field so that I'm not taking on other people's energy when I'm in their energy fields, because that's very important. As a healer, for me, the most important thing is sustainability. I don't want to be a healer for a year or 2 years. I want to be a healer for a lifetime. But that requires that I can manage my energy, that I don't take on other people's energies or illnesses, right? That my energy field has integrity, that I'm balanced, that I can purify energies in and out. And this is a tool that can do all of that for you. I love the idea of this becoming a charm on a bracelet, Deanna Bello, right? Like you could take, I may do that with mine actually, because I have a lot of necklaces that I wear. What I may end up doing is adding this to a beaded bracelet that I wear all the time, and integrate it into your jewelry wardrobe that way. Technically, Katie, people would say no, not to put quartz in place of a diamond, but again, you may find that it works. And I am never someone to go against somebody's intuition, because what I've found is other people's intuition is usually accurate for them. So when I say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that, but their intuition is leading them that way, I'm probably getting in the way of something important. I try not to do that. Yeah, and that's a great idea too from Bianca Iveson, said set a small diamond in a round bead. Yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. And if we could have beads like that made, then I think it'd be a really cool thing actually to make a mala. So what I love is you guys are smart, creative, inspired, plugged in. My request is when you make stuff, post it in the group so we can see it. I want to see the headpieces and the bracelets and the, beaded malas or whatever you end up making with it. I would love to see. But I really, at the end of the day, I trust you and I trust your intuition. So, because I think it's always accurate. Yeah, and give it a go. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't, but that's the way we learn and experiment, So what I want you to do last with me tonight, now that we've activated our Navaratna, I want you to put it in your left hand and cover it with your right, so you have the masculine and feminine energies balanced between your hands. And take a nice deep breath. And what I want to do, just for 2 or 3 minutes, really just super quick here, so we have a few minutes for questions, is I want you to connect with this piece now, not by looking at it. It's beautiful, right? It's easy to fall in love with it because it's pretty, but I want you to now connect with this piece on an energetic level. I want you to come into relationship with it, enter its field here. And let's ask to receive the blessings now of the sun, right? Coming to us through that beautiful ruby. What does the sun want to teach you through this piece? It's going to teach you strength. Ruby is really important for leadership, right? Especially when it's connected to the sun. Sun energy, solar energy is always connected to leadership. You think sunstone, right? As a leadership stone. It's going to bring you valor and strength, right? Always with Ruby. And now let's ask for the blessings of the moon, right? To connect deeply. And again, energetically, not looking at the piece, but just feeling the energy of it. The moon connects us to inner peace, balance of our moods and our energy levels. Very important for anyone who has to have compassion in their roles, counselors, advisors, teachers, right? Also, anyone who works with or has to work with divine feminine energy can be really blessed by Pearl, right? Red coral. Let's ask for the wisdom of Mars here. Red coral is really important for energy and vitality, for warrior strength and courage to get through difficult times. Holy hot hands is right. Woo! And then let's ask to be connected with the blessings and the wisdom of Emerald, which again is here representing Mercury. This is for teachers, educators, doctors, scientists, physical healers of all kinds, right? Wisdom, communication, the sharing of information. And then let's ask to be connected with the blessings of Yellow Sapphire, power and empowerment, connected to Jupiter, so that's good luck, growth, expansion, good fortune, right? The energy of Jupiter shining on you. And then let's ask to be connected with the blessings of Diamond, which connects us to Venus, to love, to beauty, to ease and flow, to abundance, to sexual power. And then let's ask to be connected to the blessings of the Blue Sapphire. Blue Sapphire, in the context of the Navaratna, is about fate. It's about the relief from negative energy or bad dreams. It's about connecting you to your purpose and your mission in this lifetime, right? Woo! And then let's ask for the blessings too of Hesonite. Hesonite here connects you to the North Node, to your Dharma, to mental balance, also to focus and to purpose. And then let's ask to be connected with the energies of Ketzai, of Chrysoberyl. That connects us to our South Node, to Ketu, and so that connects us to past life wisdom, to understanding the softer part of ourselves, the wisdom that we bring through from those previous lifetimes, and how to integrate that into this current lifetime as well. Woo! Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so together we say, Amen, Aho. And so it is. And so, with that, technically, Crystal Masters for August is complete. And I feel good because I was able to share pretty much everything I wanted to communicate with you tonight. At least in a way that was as organized as I could get it, because this is a lot of information. And I didn't want to turn this into an astrology class, but if I didn't give you enough information about the astrology, it wasn't going to make sense. So, that feel good. Yeah, Emerald is Mercury, so that's why we're talking about communication for teachers and wisdom and discernment. You are so welcome. You're very welcome, Priscilla. Thank you for being here and for receiving too. Do you guys have any questions? I would like to spend just a few additional minutes with you. If you need to leave for any reason, it's the top of the hour, in just a few minutes, it's totally fine with me, but I have another 10 minutes to be with you. And so I was wondering, what's on your mind? Do you have any questions at all? And it can be related to tonight's class for sure. Doesn't have to be. You can take me anywhere you want me to go. I'm an open book and don't know everything, but I know a lot. So anything you have on your mind, I would love to know. I'll go back up in the feed. Melissa says, if I feel strongly for the sidereal astrology chart and choose to go by it, how would it affect the signs we work with in Soul Shift? Well, Soul Shift is based on Western astrology, so you would have to make kind of those calculations. it wouldn't really affect what we do at Soul Shift, because Soul Shift is openly based on Western astrology, which is really what we use primarily in the US and Canada, and where most of my students come from. But you certainly could work with it on your own, and then compare and contrast. So you might have a 2-sign profile if you compare sidereal with the tropical. And so on your own, though, because I don't teach sidereal in Soul Shift, then you'd have to make kind of the the calculations, or to transfer the knowledge from one sign to another. Oh, I love it. I mean, I don't love that you almost fell asleep, but that tells me the energy was really powerful, Hillary. By the way, I just before class opened a birthday present from you, something beautiful for my garden. I was like, oh. So thank you, Hillary, for spoiling me. I really appreciate that. Janisa said, I don't have the tool, but I visualized having it there and now in my hands, and my hands heated up. I'm telling you, even if you don't have the tool, just by closing your hands and imagining, and that's one of the things about crystals for me, is I think that the energy translates through the screen, and I think there's a lot we can do as humans energetically connecting with crystals, even if they're not here in the room with us. I just believe that to be true. Crystals themselves are a technology, and I think we don't know everything there is to know about crystals. I don't think we can. Not in third dimension, but they're vibrational tools without a doubt. Let's see. My birthday was great. Thank you for asking. As great as a COVID birthday can be, I got a lot of time with my family, especially my mom and dad, which is really cool. I think this year more than ever, I'm just grateful that they're with me, So thank you for that. Let's see. When we want to call in our female ancestors, do we try to connect with them via our left side of our body and vice versa for the male ancestors? Not necessarily. I think you can connect with them from any place, because remember, your female ancestors are no longer female. Right? Once we go back spirit side, we're not in a human. We're only male or female or somewhere on the spectrum because we're in a human suit, But as soon as we hang up this suit in the spirit closet and zoom away, we are not female anymore. So, and when I say that, it kind of messes with people. They're like, wait a minute, grandma's not grandma? It's like, no, grandma's not grandma. Grandma was 100 other things too besides grandma. So now grandma is spirit, right? But grandma may come back to us at some future point and take on another jumpsuit from the spirit closet and become something else. However, having said that, when we have pain and discomfort on one side or other of the body, a lot of times that's masculine or feminine energy in our lineage that's trying to get our attention, right? Yeah. Jenny says, I started in April. After next April is when I complete the master's. No, so if you want the certificate for 2021, you have to go back and get January, February, and March, and then you'll be done in December. Everybody's done in December. But you have until the end of December to complete the whole year. So some people join in April, and then in September, when their kids go back to school and they have time, they go back and pick up January, February, and March. Or like I said, some people join and they don't care about the certificate, so they just kind of go for the ride. But yeah, Crystal Masters technically runs January to January. In January, the content of the classes, Crystal Masters is continuing, Soul Shift is continuing, but the content and the focus will be different next year. So then there will be new certifications. So that you won't be certified as an alchemist next year, an elemental healer. And then we will be having levels of Crystal Master certification. So it changes after December. I'm glad you asked, because that's a really good question. Let's see. I'm so glad you're connecting with it. That makes me really happy. Jackie says, when you have an astrological chart that says your vortex is in Leo, what does that mean? Your vertex is in Leo. That actually, I'm not familiar with the vertex. That's not something that I have studied or worked with. I can talk to Tara, though, who's our resident astrologer at Sage Goddess, and see what she has to say about it. Allie says, I'm getting married in December. I wanted to know if there's a particular stone I should add to my wedding ring. My favorite love stone is morganite. And I have seen people recently doing engagement rings in morganite. Sometimes they'll do little side diamonds. But I actually think morganite is a more powerful stone for love than diamond. truth be told. And you can get a gorgeous, really beautiful 1 or 2 carat morganite stone for, cut and faceted for well under $1,000. And then set that in. I always believe in setting wedding jewelry in gold, but it could be white gold and I'm also a big fan of lower carat gold. I like, if I'm doing solid gold, I always want 10K because it's harder than, the higher the carat, the softer the metal when it's solid gold. So I always do 10 carat for my own jewelry when I can, because I'm really hard on my rings and I bang, bang, bang them. And if you have 10 carat jewelry, it's going to last longer. If you can see a spirit, doesn't mean it slowed down so you could see it, or you sped up. Veronica. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we speed up. And that happens too. Let's see. Yeah, solid gold is soft, but not in 10K. In 10K, it's pretty durable. So I always say, what's the lowest carat I can, or carat of gold I can do? And it's cheaper too, but I don't do it because it's cheaper. I do it because it's stronger. Yeah. If you complete other years of Soul Shift, are certifications available? Yeah, if you go back and do all of last year, then you can be certified under last year's certifications for sure. Let's see. Hi, Lelena. Listen, I'm glad you're here. So yeah. Let's see. Go back real quick. There's a question about North and South Node. Can you talk about our South Node in more detail? What does it mean? Yeah, so the way I look at South Node is it's an indicator of what you were here doing last time. Like my South Node's in Cancer. And so when you're and my North Node's in Capricorn. So this lifetime, I'm here to be successful and achieve something, and my Sun's in the 10th house. So I'm here to be successful in a public capacity in this lifetime. If you look at my chart, my South Node is in Cancer. And so when I know I'm off track in this lifetime when I'm doing too much mothering and coddling and I'm not kicking butt and climbing some kind of goal, right? So your South Node is usually a hint that you're a little bit off track because it's the opposite of your North Node, which is what you should be doing or working toward in this lifetime. Now, having said that, I have to remind you, as always with astrology, these are not hard and fast rules, okay? Like I'm a mom of 2 kids, so I still have kids, I still have to coddle and nurture people sometimes, right? I'm a mom, but my reason for being here is to create and to build something and to be successful at it. So like growing up, I always used to ask the question, like, I can work when I get older, right? Because my mom was a stay-at-home mom and I loved her for it. I mean, I had a great childhood and I was so lucky that she was home. But I was like, I can't stay home. And I remember her just going, well, that's okay. Some people do work. And I'm like, I have to work. And she was just like, okay. But I was just always clear, like, no, but I have to go to a job. It's such a North Node in Capricorn kind of thing, right? So hopefully, Jessica, if they confuse you, hopefully this description made a little bit more sense, right? Does Soul Shift get Crystal Masters tools and classes also? Yeah, so Crystal Masters is part of Soul Shift. They have their own tools. Some of them get the Soul Shift tools, but not the Crystal Masters tools. Some of them get both. But Crystal Masters, the class, is part of the Soul Shift subscription. Yeah, it's week 2 of their 4 weeks. So for you guys, it's a one and done for the month, except for our live readings, and I do Rare Stone Roundup on Fridays. But for them, they get readings every Wednesday, and then like they had readings today before this class, and then they have 3 other sessions. Yeah. Let's see. Some people have a tendency to slip back into their South Node, and you need to focus on your North Node. That's a great description from Jessica. Thank you for that. If you do Soul Shift 2020, are you certified as a priestess? Yes. Last year I certified priestesses. This year I'm certifying alchemists. Yeah. And then next year it will be neither of those. But I'm still working on what next year is. I'll tell you when I find out. I'm doing a little medicinal journey this weekend, so I always get good guidance when I do that. Not a full crazy one, but a little mini one. Yeah, no, you can always go back and finish classes and do things later. That's what I'm saying. PhD is in adult education. And so that is one of my areas of expertise. And adults need flexibility because you have multiple demands on your time. So I'm never going to teach a class where it's like, well, you didn't, you have to do it by this date. If you want to go back and do it later, you can. But you have to complete the 12 months of a program entirely to get those certificates. But all of those classes are recorded and archived. So you can go get January 2020 and just start going through the classes, and then you'll get the certificates at the end of the program when you complete the 12. Yeah. No, I'm not doing Aya. No, for Aya is a big to do. I have to do a dieta for a week, and sometimes I do 2 weeks. And no, yeah, not this weekend. You mentioned keeping chumpies under your bed, just wondering how else to work with them and any significance of the images on them. Will they get chipped if I carry them in the bag? Yeah, the images are the 7 grandfather spirits, because grandfather comes to us as the moon, and as the hummingbird, and as the cocoa leaf, right? But they're meant to form a circle, so you can keep them around you when you're doing ceremony or a journey. You can keep them around you while you're meditating or in class. I like to keep them under my bed because they do help me sleep. And my main set is under my bed, and I'm always like, if I move it, what's going to happen to my sleep, No, I can't tell you about next year's classes yet because they're not finalized. But I'll get there pretty soon. Pretty soon I'll get there. All the dieta's a nightmare. No garlic, no salt, no seasoning, no meat, no mango, no avocado, no sugar, no alcohol, no cannabis, no sex, no masturbation, no orgasms, no chocolate. You can have hummus and carrots and water and lettuce. It's kind of a nightmare. No, the readings are not required for the certificates. No, just the classes. The readings are kind of a gift. And the coaching is kind of a gift. That recording that I do each month? These are kind of just gifts. They're not the core content. I'm not sure we're going to do a perfumery certificate this year. We're still figuring that out. Yeah, because these are things that make you sick when you do ayahuasca. You hear people who get real sick. It's because they didn't do the dieta. I don't get sick on ayahuasca. I'm real easy go of it, but I do the dieta. You can't have fibrous fruits and no sugar and no competing medicines. Remember, cacao is a medicine teacher. So no chocolate. Yeah. But you lose weight and you look real good and you feel good. My skin looks so good when I'm done with dieta. I know, it's late, you guys. Well, thank you for staying after for a few minutes. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure I had time to answer. Actually, my clock says 6:06. I don't know. Every clock is different. But anyway, I'm glad that you enjoyed class tonight. I enjoyed being with you. No, because having an orgasm, so, and this is kind of a long story. Is this really interesting? I don't know if this is interesting to you guys, but ayahuasca doesn't compete. And so she wants you unhooked from all of your desires and urges to have crystal clarity. So when you work with someone who's kind of strict, and I'm pretty strict about it because, again, I've had really good experiences, you don't want to, you're raising Kundalini energy, which competes with her, right? She doesn't want competition in the system. So no Kundalini. I mean, if you're really, really strict, you don't even fantasize or kiss or anything, because it all sort of starts to stir the Kundalini energy, and that is a conflict, and it can make you sick. So, it's a week. You can go a week, right, without going downtown. It's an energetic fast as much as it is a food and alcohol and drug fast, right? So, I'm glad. Super glad. Okay, I'm gonna check my clocks then, because my one clock says 6:13 and the other one says 6:08, and I tend to go by the 6:08 one, but that probably makes me always running over for you. So anyway, thanks you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. I'm just making sure in the feed that I got to everything I could tonight. Yeah. Any good advice to help my energy, to hold my energy in the future. She's taking Reiki classes this weekend, 1 and 2. Take your Navaratna with you. Remember, it stabilizes, it balances, it purifies the energy field, right? Carry it with you and see how it goes. What I like is it does a lot for being such a small tool. That can go in your pocket, in your bra, in your purse, you know what I mean? So experiment with it, especially because I think that this is highly compatible with Reiki, right? Which is just sort of the most powerful, in my opinion, universal life force. So I love that you might work with those synergistically. I think that's really cool. Thanks, you guys. Well, as always, thank you for being here. I'm super glad that you're in my life and in my community. Alexis and I just love Crystal Masters so much. You guys are just such a bright spot in our world. So thank you for being here and for letting me share my wisdom with you. And I know the way I teach crystal healing is sometimes different from the way other people teach it. And I know my way of approaching it is more esoteric. Like a lot of other crystal healing teachers probably wouldn't talk about the Navaratna. But I travel a lot around the world, not this year, but usually. I have friends and people I consider extended family members in lots of different parts of the world, and colleagues in India, and like I said, my academic roots take me back to these ancient civilizations. So all of this for me is really important because somewhere this will live in the back of your mind, and you'll have a client or a family member, you know, and this will come up. And I like the idea that you're well trained and well rounded. And not just with placements on body, but also like the broader energies and the histories of why do we work with these stones? Well, we've been working with them for thousands of years, and there's a reason. And that lineage, in some ways, may also be your lineage too. So thank you for going for the ride. All right, you guys, take excellent care. I will look forward to seeing you very soon. And thank you, Alexis, as always, my darling. Could not appreciate you more than I do. We'll see you in the Facebook group. And if you start making cool shit, or if you start, you know, spending $1 million on a custom Navaratna, like I said, I want proof and I want to borrow it. I don't think